I'd love to kick us off. I know we already started some deep conversations. This doesn't feel like a podcast episode to me. This feels like a therapy session. This is our pregnancy episode, and I think the way that all of us have approached pregnancy, fertility, postpartum is so unique and different. And one thing in common is just how much we all value the importance of mind and body connection. And I can't tell you just how inspired I am by both of you for everything you've done to elevate this conversation forward. And just, I would love for you to both start out by just kind of like your journey through pregnancy and your businesses. I know we were just talking, all of us have so many kids to get, like if we combine our number of children, it's a lot. And we're running health companies and we have to hold our shit together. Yeah. It's a lot.
Well, I think too, I mean, we were just having before the mic was recording, but an honest conversation of just how we're feeling. And I think that's how I've always approached movement and how I am online, to be as transparent as I can. And I think that's how I was and how I approached my pregnancy journey and my postpartum journey, was just really honestly sharing the struggles that I was having, feeling in my body, mentally feeling throughout my pregnancy and into postpartum. And I think the more that open I was with that journey, the more women, showed up and felt like they were being heard as well. And I think it can always feel so lonely and isolating in that time, whatever you're going through. And you sometimes feel like you're the only one feeling this way, and you're not. So the more open conversations we can have, whether it's infertility or pregnancy or postpartum or just motherhood and the chaos that we all feel, the less lonely it can feel. And I think that's been always my mission with regards to movement too, and how I've showed up. So while I didn't love the process of being pregnant and postpartum, and it felt very long and uncomfortable for me, I was also very proud to put together a very robust pre- and postnatal program that I filmed while going through the journey myself, so that, you could see your trainer changing and growing in front of you. And that's a program that I just feel very proud of, and I hope that it can support women who are going through it.
It's incredible. I wish it existed when I had my 3 babies, because I was so lost. I didn't know what like even safety is when it comes to exercise. Yeah. I was so frightened that I was doing the wrong thing. Yeah. And I think
in a lot of women feel that way, right? It's like I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. And so giving women the tools to feel empowered to move their bodies while they are growing and changing is really important.
I feel that way just generally. Yeah. Like when I'm not pregnant, I don't know what to do in movement, so I just don't move. Just kidding. I mean, kind of kidding,
or it can
but
feel
really.
overwhelming. Yeah. Of like, okay, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything.
I mean, I share so many sentiments to what you were saying, Megan, about the pregnancy journey. I think, I was pregnant with my first in 2016, 17, and I didn't know anyone that had a tough pregnancy. Like, I thought I saw people online. I was in the health and wellness space. Everyone I saw or was sort of like pregnant with at the time, or at least like colleagues online that were pregnant at the time with me, everyone was just like looking like they were having the most blissful time, like walking barefoot, wearing like a beautiful bohemian dress, like singing to their baby. And I was literally puking. Mm-hmm. I had hyperemesis gravidarum. And I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but I literally threw up 36 times a day from the time I found out I was pregnant, around 6 or 7 weeks, until my son came earthside. Oh, and it was like, I cannot, like, I'm triggered by when the term morning sickness comes up, because I was just sick all day long. Wow. Literally 36 times a day on average. And I remember in the beginning when I was pregnant, and it happened very quickly, and people kept saying like, oh, first trimester, it's going to get better, which is usually the case. And that came and went, and I was so, like, I felt so much shame, because I felt like, number one, and this is like a reoccurring thing for me with my sort of whole motherhood journey and bringing babies into this world, is a lot of shame, because I feel like my body wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, and something was different about me. But I felt like this weird sense of, I didn't want anyone to know I was pregnant, because I wasn't really sure how how I was truly feeling, and I didn't want anyone to get it wrong. Like, I didn't want people to think I was also just having that blissful, because it was so untrue, and I've always had a problem with like not being transparent. But I also didn't know how to put out there in the world that the only thing I could eat were Egg McMuffins from McDonald's. And like, I was gluten-free, like no refined sugar, anti-inflammatory diet for like 2 years, and I talked a lot about that previously. And literally the only thing I can get down was not like Erewhon style, like literally from McDonald's. And it's probably what sustained me. I remember sharing my first post about being pregnant, and it was everything I'm saying right now, and I just let it all out. And it was like 3 paragraphs long of the most transparent, like horrible experience of being pregnant. And there was just this flood of people that like connected with me that I clearly didn't know, that were like, thank you so much. I didn't know that other people were also having a tough time. And I think we have this like idea that being pregnant is easy and fun and blissful, and sure, I was so grateful.
Yeah.
And there's the guilt that comes with that too. People being like, don't complain.
That was the other thing for me too.
Because you're so lucky to be pregnant.
Yeah, I think we all know, I have family members, friends who had really struggled with fertility and pregnancy loss. And so I also felt that guilt and that shame to vocalize that I wasn't enjoying this process that I, of course, was so grateful to be pregnant, but not enjoying. And so that was a little scary to put out into the world, you know.
Well, I didn't even realize that until I put it out, and then you get a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, this is why people don't feel comfortable sharing things, because you know, it's from women, which I find so interesting.
How do you guys think that both of your experiences through pregnancy, and then also having future kids not through pregnancy, which I'd love to get into, how do you think it's influenced some of the programs and the tools that you're providing to others?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, you know, my whole mission with the Sculpt Society is really to help women move in a way that they can look forward to and transform how they are working out. So if I can provide workouts that can connect them to the body that maybe they don't recognize, or to an emotional day, a stressful day, an anxious day, that helps them connect and get grounded like it did for me, because movement was so essential during that time. Anytime we're going through a stressful period, fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, motherhood, I really look to movement as my therapy. And so it's transformed my work and providing content that way, and really in the hopes that these workouts can help women just connect back in for a few minutes a day.
That's amazing. I think when I had my first child and I was pregnant, when I thought about working out, I thought about what's my body going to look like after I give birth. You know, like super superficial.
Well, especially during your first pregnancy, when the unknowns are just, right? You just don't know. How is this going to change my body?
Yeah, and it was less about how do I feel. And I think there's just this disconnect in culture where, you know, the mom is the carrier for the child, and then is like this wrapper that gets tossed aside. And as you go through several pregnancies and you get a little more experience, you realize just the importance of taking care of your mental health through whatever tools you have. And for me, it turned into fitness. I stopped caring, like, what am I going to look like? I know my body's going to change.
Well,
I can't feel, I don't have any abs.
Especially during pregnancy, I think it's like, well, what's the point of working out? I'm pregnant. But I think and it also outside of pregnancy too, sometimes if someone's not motivated by the aesthetic, maybe your motivation can be for your mental health. If you can change that conversation for yourself, maybe you have a big meeting and you're stressed, and you can utilize movement to connect and feel less stressed about it, or just generally you're not feeling great, or you want to feel less anxious. Like if that can help motivate you to move your body, I think that is very helpful. And I think we're starting to have more conversations about mental health and fitness, but I think we're all so concentrated on what we look like, but if you can change the focus to be about your mental health, it might be easier to show up.
I've actually noticed in my practice, or when I'm working with people that are pregnant, that actually is a shift that happens and carries through, and I love seeing that, where people are using movement for other reasons than aesthetic. And I think redefining, like, really what that means. I always say it's a big joke, but not really, that I am just like not good at exercising, but I actually am really like movement is a huge part of my toolbox. And you know, I know Kat knows it because we talk about it a lot, but people that have ever heard me talk about my own tools, like dance is a really big one for me. And I am not like a dancer, like the person to my right here. And that's also something I'm working on, is saying I'm not a dancer, because I think anyone that moves their body and dances to music is a dancer. But like for me, it literally is such a release.
Such a release.
And it's part of my morning ritual now since the beginning of COVID is when I like incorporated it in 2020, which was I do something called Wake Up and Dance. And it's the first thing I do. And I know through research that however you start you start your day off, how you're feeling and what your mood is, like deeply impacts the remainder of your day. And so for me, like music is such a huge part of my sort of toolbox, and then moving to it. So it's sort of a double. That's how I move. And I like walking.
Yeah. And I mean, then that's amazing. Walking is so great. But I love that. I've done that. I want to do that more regularly with my kids. There is something about in the morning turning on a really fun song and as a family just dancing. And
we don't have time in the morning for that, but we do dance parties
my
after
kids
dinner.
go all
we do dance
bananas
parties after dinner.
It's so cute, right?
We have like, it's been something since Jag was a baby. I think it's just because it was such a part of my, like I remember being a teen and like turning on, you know, for me it was very angsty and grungy, but like turning on like music, shutting my door and just like going at it, like just dancing. And so it's a big part.
What's your favorite dance song right now?
Well, dance song a little bit different than what I was just, my like hype song is.
Yeah,
right
what's
now,
your hype song?
Which is going to be totally random because I'm pretty sure you both and probably 90% of the people listening to this are not going to know what this is.
Well, that's good. Then we'll look it up.
I don't even know if you'll like it. But I have a really favorite band from my like early 20s that is, I guess, it would be considered like punk. Grunge.
I cannot. You're a punk.
Oh yeah,
I know.
can
No one
totally
ever.
see it.
There's a lot of things that I think are like weird uncoverings about me.
I would have never guessed that, Deepika.
But there's this band that I'm obsessed with. Oh my God, so good, called Cursive. The only person in this room that I feel like might know Cursive is sitting behind me in the. Do you know Cursive?
Oh yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So like everyone. There's probably so many like pregnant people listening to this. Right?
No, I don't think so.
No, listening to
this
podcast,
not Cursive.
and can you just imagine all of them starting to like hype themselves up?
The music you'd want to listen to really loud in your car, and just like, it's like, I don't know the word, but like it's notes that don't really go with each other, but also is really melodic. But it's like, and he's just such a good, like his lyrics are so good. He came out with a new album recently. If you're a Cursive fan, I'm a huge Ugly Organ and Domestica album fan, but he just came out with a new album, and I am like on the way to the event that we just did a couple nights ago, which Megan was at, and I invited Megan to it, and Kat and I did this event, and I was having a really, really hard day, and it took me an hour and 53 minutes to get there. And I was just like, so many things went wrong that day, and I just like was listening to that on the way, and it totally, like, I don't know, I was just telling my husband, I'm like, music is just it is the surefire tool that has been in my back pocket since I was a young kid, and it has always been the same. We are going to change our tools, and I inspire clients of mine to, like, my passionate sort of side of this is to help people come up with their own tangible mental health toolbox. And for me, that thing's going to change. But for me, the music part has been, like, I cannot, when good music turns on and there's like a table around, and I don't even drink, like I cannot not just get up and dance, and you'll probably find me on the table. And I think it's genetic because my dad is like that. Like I just have to move to music, and it flips my mood.
We need a grunge pregnancy playlist.
Oh,
I want it. And you can do a Sculpt Society to it. It would be amazing.
We should do it.
I'd love to hear from you, Megan. I mean, I think we talked about this before, and I think I made you blush, but everyone like looks at you and they're like, oh my God, she has her shit together, you know, incredible body, trains some of the most amazing people in the world. Clearly we all were talking, you know, behind the scenes that we don't have our stuff together, but you know, side note, I guess what if you could break down fitness and moving your body for both mind and body during the trimesters of pregnancy? Love to hear some of your tips and
Yeah.
some of the guidance around that.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, thank you. That's kind. I by the way, I feel like a hot mess most of the time. So that's nice to hear that you think I have it together, because I certainly don't. But first trimester, most people feel like crap. And I think that's, I get a lot of messages where it's like, I'm in my first trimester, I feel like crap, like I haven't been working out, what do I do? And so that feels overwhelming, especially if you're an active person and you've entered your first trimester and you're like, well, I've fallen behind somehow. And I always say, listen, first trimester, if you're not feeling good, take a break. Like, don't feel this immense pressure to show up like you used to show up to your workouts if you were someone that was, super into fitness. And then also, like, slow it down if you need to make it a little bit more of a gentle workout. So our prenatal program starts at week 5, because that's generally like the earliest you would find out. And in that first trimester, technically, you don't have to change anything about how you're working out. So you can continue to do core work, you can continue to do the workouts you have been doing if you feel up to it. I would say 75% of women aren't feeling up to it, and that's why in that first trimester we have a lot of slow and controlled, which is a little bit more of like a slower, more gentle paced full body sculpt classes. So that's I think tip number 1 for first trimester. It's like, if you don't feel good, like, that's okay. Like, you can take a nap instead of working out if that's what you need, or maybe it's just a walk outside. And then
Or a dance to grunge music.
To grunge music. And then second and third trimester, that's when it's really important to start to modify your core work. I recommend my clients don't do traditional abs on back in your second and third trimester, a traditional crunch. There are modifications that we can make, and we do make in those weeks. So making sure that we are really understanding our breath, our pelvic floor, all of the mechanics that are happening there. So in my second and third trimester classes, we have prenatal pelvic floor classes, and I'm really breaking your diaphragm down, how to really incorporate all of that in a modified plank. And that's the other thing, we are still doing planks, but they're modified. And again, that's to really manage the intra-abdominal pressure that's happening in your growing bump. So there's a lot, I know that can sound like a lot if you're listening, but it is simple once it's broken down for you. And, like small things that we're not having you do a traditional crunch. We're not doing big twists and motions. So if you're punching, for instance, side to side with your arms, you're going to take your shoulders and your hip bones with you. So you're not disconnecting the two of them.
I'm like mirroring your body. I'm like, I'm not even pregnant, but I'm like, okay, I got this.
And I also like, I think a lot of people think, and then of course, you get into your third trimester and your bump is a bit bigger, your energy level is a little bit, less. So I think in that third trimester, it's just being a little bit more kind to the expectations of like what you think you want to do. And if you're not feeling up to a longer workout, taking that more gentle prenatal class if you need that. What's really nice about our prenatal program is we have gentle prenatal classes, our slow and controlled prenatal, and then our regular paced prenatal. So a little bit faster, a little bit more advanced. So you can kind of pick your own track depending on how you're feeling. But then, typically most people in their second trimester, maybe not you, Deepika, with your first, do experience a little bit more of that energy that's coming back. So I always say to clients, if you're feeling that energy that's come back in that second trimester, utilize it, take the classes, get consistent with your workout practice. And then in the third trimester, if you need to slow down, absolutely slow down. But, maybe it's just picking that slower track in our prenatal program.
You know what I really think is such a beautiful way to utilize movement when you are pregnant, and it could be such a tool, is that so much of the pregnancy journey, when I work with people, and I know I experienced this on my own, but is feeling out of control. And it's sort of like surrendering to this idea. And I talk a lot about like letting go and trying not to be super focused on being in control, but there's a whole nother side of it that simultaneously you want to help people control where they can. And that's and it's not even just in pregnancy, but it's a tool that we have to exercise just as humans in life, because all of us experience that. But being able to move your body is one of the ways, and same with like what you choose to supplement your body with, and coming back to what the amazing products that you have, is this way that we can sort of exercise where we do have control in a moment where we feel a complete loss of control. And then on top of that, including with the supplements, but the movement, it's a way to like reconnect with your body. And I know I'm not alone. When I was pregnant, I felt like no connection really to my body. I felt like something was happening to me and sort of like I didn't feel integrated.
Yeah.
Like my entire body didn't feel like mine. It felt like it was being loaned out for something different, or I just felt like even being pregnant sometimes, I know this sounds a little silly, but this is where my psychological mind went, like it felt claustrophobic. And sometimes I was like, I need to get this thing off me.
Well, especially in that third trimester.
And
oh
you
my
can't,
gosh,
and you're just like,
I'm done.
So doing something like whether it is walking or for me, it was, you know, moving to music and dancing and feeling this connection, or if I could have done, you know, some gentle workouts, like, or even what I was choosing to supplement with, you just feel this like connection to your body and integrated sense of like, this is my body from head to toe. And like, there are things happening to it and with it. But also this sense of like, I do have some agency and control, and here are the areas I do, and I'm gonna like really take that under my control and do that. And here are the areas I don't, and I'm gonna like breathe through that and start to work on ways to accept that. And I think like that whole issue of in and out of control is actually such a important lesson that we learn prenatally and through our pregnancy that really is prepping us for parenthood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
That was so beautiful.
That is,
couldn't agree more.
Nothing could resonate with me more. I had very different pregnancies. I've had 3, and the first one I actually think ritual wouldn't exist without it, because I was the type of person that liked to control everything. And when I got pregnant, I felt actually more creative, less control, less analytical, and it kind of like all the boundaries went away, and it allowed me to envision the life that I wanted and the company that I wanted to start, because I was less like in the weeds on things.
I love that.
But obviously not everything is roses. I agree with you.
And even each pregnancy,
that's what I was going to say.
is different.
It's different for each person, and then every pregnancy is so different. I'd love for you to touch upon if you're open to it, your journey, because it feels like, you know, it's not just about pregnancy, but it's just having babies is different.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I obviously learned and was humbled by. You know, there isn't even one way to bring a child into this world. And I think that for me, for those listening, after I carried my first JAG, besides having hyperemesis gravidarum, there were many other things that happened. And I had an emergency delivery, and I got pretty severe preeclampsia and found out after the fact, like it was something that was missed, that what sort of caused all this is I have this predisposition to blood clotting. And I only really found all this postpartum. So after all the emergency, and it's so interesting, another thing that I think is incredible to talk about is how much we do in the name of our children that we wouldn't necessarily do to care for ourselves in the name of ourselves, if that makes sense. But I was so focused on JAG, and I knew I had gone through some sort of emergency. I was in the hospital for a week. He was fine, thankfully. He was born right at 37 weeks. Kind of a miracle, because if it would have been any later, it would have been detrimental to me, and any earlier detrimental to him. And after like maybe 5 months or so, I went to the doctor, and I was like, whoa, I've just been so focused on my newborn. I know I went through this emergency, but like, what really happened to me? And like, can I even have other children, or will this happen again? And I think I was like kind of focused on the hyperemesis. I didn't even realize there was other stuff. And I went to a high risk specialist, and she sort of looked through my chart and was like, whoa, like you were tested for these things, and this like these numbers were so high. Like, did they blood thin you? Were you doing anything to prevent clots? And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So then we went through this whole other path and more testing, and that's when we found out. And she was like, I really highly recommend, given I have some autoimmune stuff, which I think contributed, given everything, that you probably aren't a candidate to carry another child. Wow. And it was so emotionally blowing, but I kind of didn't believe it.
Can you imagine if you didn't ask?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
Like, you
many
have
of
to
us don't
yes.
ask. We don't advocate for ourselves.
And like, it was in my chart and it was totally missed. And that's also a miracle because a C-section is a greater risk for clotting as well. And like, I think I did not clot and I was not preventing it. So then I went to 2 more high-risk specialists and they all sort of, with all my different stuff calculated together, that I had probably like somewhere around an 87% chance of like not really making it through a subsequent pregnancy. And so you never know what someone's going through, but you know, my situation and the route we went was not necessarily for fertility issues, but it was that I couldn't carry again or I shouldn't. And it was honestly the most difficult emotional experience. It took me a whole year to really wrap my brain around, and every month that went by, I would sort of like look at myself in the mirror and be like, but like, I was fine. So like, this is just I want to have another baby. And like, it would just be so much, like, maybe we should just do it. And of course my husband was like, absolutely not. And I would look at my son, and I'm a mom now, and I would never put myself through an 87% chance of possibly not being there.
Oh,
and
goodness.
so, you know, it took me about a year and to really like think about what my options were. And everyone kept telling me like, you should just go and like go through the IVF process and like get embryos. And even that was really risky. So for me, it's like any elevation of hormones can cause the blood clots. And so, but it was a shorter period of time than being pregnant. And so I was deathly scared, emotionally and physically, of what that would look like. I didn't really want to believe it. I was in denial. I had already carried once, so I kind of knew, even though I hated being pregnant, I would have done it again. And I think it was a double-edged sword. Like, part of it was, I look back and I'm so grateful that I actually had the chance and the experience to carry. And at the same time, it made my secondary and third experience more difficult because I knew I was comparing it and I knew what I was missing out on. And I felt like a sense of also just this like projection that I was going to have a much different relationship with my other now 2 future kids. I mean, I'm talking mostly about my second child because that was the first time I went through the surrogacy. And I think like the thing that sticks out the most to me, and I'm not sure I've really shared this, I was so fearful that I wasn't going to connect with my second child because I had carried my first. And to be honest, I did not connect with Jag while I was pregnant at all. Like I mean, how could I? I was vomiting the whole time. It was awful. Even though I didn't connect at all, the minute, it was like a movie, what people say, and this is not everyone's experience, the minute they put Jag on my chest, it was like we were one. I was so connected. Yeah. It was like I didn't even, like nothing else and no one else mattered in the whole world, including Alex in that moment. But like, it was just like, oh my God, I laughed to myself how I could ever think I wasn't going to be connected. And so I felt that connection so deeply. And so to me, it felt like my body was doing what it was meant to do. And then with Dio, my second, I was so fearful. I wasn't going to have all the hormones. How could that be? My body wasn't prepping for anything. I would cry to Alex and be like, I'm so scared I'm not going to connect to this child, or to my best friends. And with the best intentions, of course, everybody was like, Deepika, this is your baby. You are going to connect immediately. Like, it doesn't matter about the process. Like, it will be the same. And to be honest with you, it wasn't. And I almost want to like, I still cry thinking about it not because I'm so connected to all of my children in different ways, but just like as much in terms of potency. But I cry a little bit about it because of the extra shame and guilt I felt in the first like few weeks when I wasn't as connected as I was the first time around. And to be honest, after talking to multiple parents, I don't know if it was just like, some people have that with their second kid. It's not like the first. Right. I don't know if it's because I didn't carry him, but the combination of it all, I not only like was scared not to connect, but then I put all my eggs in the basket of like, of course you'll connect, Deepika, because everyone told you, like, dads connect. Like, Alex is like, I connected to Jag and I didn't carry him. And what about like, you know, parents that adopt? Of course they're connected. It'll be the same. And then when it wasn't, it was like the shame and the fear and how crappy I felt about myself because I had allowed no space for difference. was so incredible that like anytime he like was hungry and like cried a little bit, I was like, oh my God, it's because I didn't carry him. And he wasn't even he was a very easy baby, but anything that went like slightly not right, it was my like, it's because I'm not connected. Or like with Jag, you know, I think I was going through my own postpartum stuff. Obviously I'd been through a lot, but I never pumped. I wanted to feed him. Like I was so controlling, and like nobody was going to feed him. Like it was only me. I would go and like speak on panels and run back to feed him and then run back for the networking portion. I just was like, and I don't regret it. It was not good for my mental health, but I don't regret it because somewhere deep inside, I think I knew I couldn't do it again. And with Dio, anyone could feed him. It was the craziest experience for me. Like, but after like 3 weeks, I was so connected to him, and it was like in a whole different way. And
what made you connected to him, and what are the, like, if you could give advice to others that are going through that, what would it be?
That it doesn't have to be the same, and it's probably not going to be the same, and do not pressure yourself to compare one pregnancy to another, even if you're carrying both times and everything, all the circumstances seem the same. The pressure I felt to like so much comparison against my own experience, or, you know, trying to project what our connection might be and listening to so many other people who had the best intentions. I tell people now all the time who worry about that, it's obviously a worry when you are not carrying your child. Will I connect? I literally leave that space open to be like, you will, but it may not be right away. And it may not be in the exact same way that you think you might. It took time. That's all it was. It took time. And like when I closed shut off some of the noise of the pressure, I was like recognizing the connections. And then not only that, I actually surpassed that in like, I cried watching Alex feed him. Like Alex could feed him the same way that I could. Everyone could take part.
It's a little bit empowering.
It is.
Kind of relief, no?
It was relief. I felt like how joyful for Dio that he could have so many connections. I also felt the relief of like, with Jag, it was like, and I'm sure you guys have felt this way, like everything about his existence in that first few months is based on me. And that's a lot of pressure. Like bringing him into the world, feeding him, like everything was
too much pressure.
It is.
It's just too much pressure, and that's why we're all cracking, right?
Yeah.
And then
I feel like we're all a little cracking. With Gia, I was able to really experience this surrogate journey with so much curiosity, and like it was totally different as well, but like without any of the projection and like shame and guilt.
It is so interesting, the pressure we put on ourselves, especially with the first.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I feel like there are so many open conversations now, and I don't know why I wasn't listening to them. I wish I could go back in time and like hear some of these conversations, because I know that they were being had. I mean, not everywhere, but I still felt so ill-prepared, and I still felt this immense pressure around the first. And with my second, it was 180, completely different. Just feeling relaxed and just not needing to feel like I needed to be the perfect mom, you know?
Which I would also tell someone, because that's so common.
Yeah.
Like, how normal is that?
Yeah.
Like, the second time around, you know something.
Yeah.
The first time around, everything's so unknown. For me, I know I operated with a lot of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first time around, just with everything.
Can you imagine restarting that without fear? Like going back in time and just having that lack of fear, lack of shame, lack of, more confidence, like how that would change your entire experience.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we have to be easy on ourselves, because that fear, that first time around or whatever it is, it's all normal. And it actually sometimes, of course, it can take a different path and it can be paralyzing, but sometimes like, you get something from it. You might it's part of the experience. It's a fabric of it, and it's part of our human. It means we care. You didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And
but I
no
think
matter what anyone says, you don't know what to expect.
And I'm sure I got advice going into my first, but I think because it was your first time, like it
doesn't
probably
matter.
A process.
Yeah,
you know
it doesn't
what I mean?
matter what you hear or listen to when it's your first. That's why I always tell people there's no way you could really truly prepare, except for possibly the places that you do have control in, which is like help setting up your body.
Yeah.
Which is what you guys are in your mind
Yeah.
a lot
In
of
your
times.
mind,
It's
yes.
just creating tools.
Yeah, I'd love to get in more information on the tools and all the tips. I think you said you wished that you had listened to the advice or all the things that were around you. It feels like right now there's almost information overload. Like there's
Yeah.
too much advice and it's all conflicting.
Yeah.
Like, how do you guys navigate the information, and like what do you think are those fundamental basic tools that are gonna kind of last us in like 10 years still around? Like, what are those, you mentioned like listening to your body
Yeah.
and fitness, but like
I think also just as basic as this sound is just like trusting yourself as a parent, and being able to tune out all of the opinions. Like, you are the best parent for your child. And I think for me, because I'm running a business and I have so much like going on, that when it comes to like parenting advice, I almost like don't have room for it. And I'm showing up the best way that I can, leaning into the best way I know how to be a parent, and taking advice that resonates with me, and kind of just leaving the other advice out there.
That's so funny you say that. Last year, or maybe it was the year before, I stopped following every single person that was at all some sort of parenting. Not saying that any of that is bad. It just wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
I truly believe in what you said. Like, you are the best parenting guru for your family. You know your family. But what I will say is, really early on, when Jag was little, I remember even in choosing like a pediatrician, right? There's so much, especially here. You could be like, oh, well, this one's more, I think that someone told me, like, choose one person in terms of a pediatrician, or choose one. Maybe it's your pediatrician, maybe it's, a really good friend. Choose someone that you connect with, that you believe in, and like just go with that and yourself. And so I have a lot of friends who are doctors, and I would like, when things would happen, I would like ask our pediatrician, then I'd ask like my family friend, then I would ask like Alex's friend, and then it's like a lot of compounding stuff, and you have to in the end like have boundaries and take a few. And I do that with, so I love data, obviously, and I know
I do too.
Yeah, and so early on when I had a podcast, which was here in this room too,
You're a super nerd, I just have to say.
I am a super nerd. I interviewed Emily Oster, and I loved her because she
a professor.
Yeah. And I just decided, you know what, I'm a data person, and so I subscribed to her, and I turned everything else off. And then I have built in my community like a couple really good friend moms who I see that I really like their parenting style, and it matches my morals and my values. And then the last thing I would say is, I'm a big proponent of helping people really sharpen their intuition, because I think that we actually know what's best a lot of times, but the world and the type of world we live in today, we don't have that relationship with our intuition, or like that trusting our gut anymore. And it makes sense because things are so fast. And the only way to really be in touch with your intuition is to spend time with yourself. And the type of world we live in just doesn't like give space for that. So it's a practice of setting boundaries, picking out a couple people you really entrust, and then spending more time with yourself and like training your brain to listen.
I think that's great business advice too.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I was like,
stop asking everyone else.
Yeah.
And even in business, I'm like, I gotta just take a beat and think about this problem that I'm having.
Because oftentimes you're more confused than you were to begin with when you're asking all the things.
Yeah.
well, your business is like your child's.
Oh, yeah.
And you learn that. It's so interesting because I find some of the things that make me a good mother or parent are actually the same things that make me a good business leader or CEO. And a lot of it comes down to intuition. Like, the sharper your intuition is as a parent or a CEO, the more effective you are, because no one can tell you. Like, you take all these inputs, but you have to distill them down.
Yeah.
I mean, our brains are like wired for intuition.
Yeah.
I love that we're both, like, all of us are health leaders and experts, but then also mothers. And we talked about this before we started the show. It's just like the pressure. This is not even in my notes, but I'm like, this is such a good topic. the pressure that I think being external facing, running businesses, the time that takes, being good mothers, you know, all the things together, and then society looks at you and like, are you healthy? Well,
Right.
also there's entrepreneurs, and then there's health entrepreneurs and moms, and you're supposed to be like the apex of health, and you're like, but I'm also working like 120 hours a week and trying to keep the family up. And one thing I was just going to say that I've never really told anyone is that I had just gestational diabetes during my pregnancy, and I was so ashamed and so embarrassed. And I'm like, here I am, this, you know, I take all the right supplements. I'm so healthy. I am a plant-based eater. I, you know, eat all organic, but it's like it was out of my control. And it's like so embarrassing that you have something wrong with you, but you're supposed to reflect health and wellness to the external world, you know?
I literally just threw that out the window because for me personally, when things started to like sort of go more public facing with the work that I'm doing, I was like so worried because I'm not someone that is good at putting on like a face, or like I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm pretty open book, and I could never be someone that is like the poster child for what I am not the poster child or poster person of optimism.
Wait, can you define what I love when you define it, because it's totally transformed my life and my company. But I feel like it's so relevant for what people are going through their pregnancy journeys, like redefining optimism. Sorry, we didn't even get into that.
Yeah, like optimism, despite what so many people think, is not about being positive all the time. Whenever I'm like in a large group and I ask people to like shout out the first word that comes to mind when they think of the idea of optimism, it's most always positivity or like being positive. And I think people are pretty like surprised to hear that someone that studies optimism, the first like maybe couple words that come to my mind are resiliency and curiosity, and positivity is sort of a little bit lower on the list. You know, being optimistic is someone that is really, really keenly and mindfully aware of the roadblocks and the setbacks and the less than ideal situations that happen on a daily basis for most humans. But the caveat is they see those things as temporary and something that they have the ability to overcome.
I learned so much from you, and I feel like it's a muscle that I'm exercising every day, and it's had a tremendous impact on my life. I think both the curiosity and the resilience, both through pregnancy and through being a mom and being an entrepreneur, like it's the best tool, optimism.
And it's an everyday. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's choosing that lifestyle.
But isn't that right? Like, I think it's such a great example. No one has it figured out.
No.
And I think, right, we look at people and we put them on pedestals. And I think it's just the more we can connect with people and share truthful stories and transparent stories, I think we can all just feel more connected.
Yes.
I was looking at your Instagram, and you were like fitting in a 20-minute workout with your child next to you, and I was like, oh cool, she doesn't have it figured out either. No. But I was like, you were teaching people to like figure it out and
those,
move their bodies in between, and I was like, I love that.
Those
but
imperfect workouts, right, where my kid is like drawing and like crawling over me, but like I'm getting it in because I know I need it for my mental health. You know?
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to be working out like every?
No, if
like
anything,
5 times. I bet she works out 5 times a day.
I think I work out way less than I have ever worked out, and I think that's a testament to just also like a motto I have, which is committing to less so that you can show up more. I talk about this all the time with my community. Like, it doesn't have to be these long, lengthy, hard workouts all the time. It could be a 5-minute workout before a Zoom call or before you get your day started. Maybe you only have 5 minutes. I would rather you get 5 minutes in consistently and build that sustainable habit around movement than kill yourself once a week or once a month and then be sedentary and not be moving your body. So I think it's, as I've gotten older, just readjusting how I approach fitness and thinking about how am I moving for the rest of my life, right? Like, I'm not moving for the next 30 days. This is for the rest of my life. So how can I approach it in a way that's going to work into my day-to-day life?
Yeah, because I think the movement that you set up for when you're trying to have a kid, to pregnancy, to postpartum, does impact your body for the rest, and your mind for the rest of your life.
And your pelvic floor.
Yeah, for sure. So I love that you said like forming a habit, because that's what ritual is, like elevating a routine to a habit to a ritual, something that people look forward to every single day. And I'd love to close this out with some of your pregnancy rituals. Like what were some of the things that you guys loved doing every single day that made you feel amazing during your pregnancy, or when you were, you know, anticipating the birth through surrogacy?
I love how Kat looked at me, because I was going to be like, literally, when I was pregnant, there was nothing.
And it was
that
McDonald's.
I could do.
It's cool. Like, I think that no shame.
It was your egg McMuffin.
It was
Egg McMuffin in the morning. What time
did
did you eat it?
I mean, that's all. It was like 2 a day, and I had to I threw them up, like all of them. But I also like ate really good ice. There was a
maybe you were
little
low in iron.
I was, so that's what I found out, and again it happened to me, and I was anemic. Yeah.
So in my second pregnancy, I was eating ice like a crazy person.
That happens when you're low in iron.
So I got I had to get iron infusions.
Wow. Yeah, that's
so if anyone's listening, if you're
It's
eating
not a
ice,
positive one, but it's
people
fine.
don't know that, and I remember it because when I was younger, my mom used to chew ice all the time.
She was low,
and she was anemic, so I knew that.
Yeah.
But people out there, if you are pregnant, and you are like craving chewing ice, you should go get your iron levels checked.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to bring it back to like the movement, but truly, when I was pregnant, the moments in my day, because I really didn't love being pregnant, like the moments in my day that I truly looked forward to was moving my body, because it really connected me to an ever-changing body that I wasn't recognizing and I didn't feel connected to. And it was those moments where I could. So that was a ritual that was like a non-negotiable for me.
Any products or tools that you used and you love?
I mean, I did all, like, everyone was like, you know, what did you put on your bump for stretch marks? I'm like, first of all, like, there's no oil or lotion. That's gonna, like, that's just hereditary. Yeah. Like, I oiled up there. I obviously took rituals, prenatal, other non-negotiables, a good probiotic. I think a lot of pregnancies, you know, you're not using the bathroom regularly.
Not a product, but what helped me during my pregnancy, I used to carry around a lemon with me in my purse and just scratch it and sniff it, because it helped with the nausea for a moment. Like, I literally would get a moment that I'd feel okay, and then I'd throw up again. But those moments really, you know, they sustain me.
Carry around a lemon. That you said that. My mom gives my kids lemons when they're in the car, and I'm like, that's so weird. It's because like she like doesn't want them throwing up all over their car.
It really,
so it probably works. Yeah,
helps to smell.
So yours is a lemon, and yours is a workout.
Yeah, or like getting outside. I mean, pregnant or not, like to me, a walk outside, you get coffee. Also, I love myself a coffee.
I love coffee.
You know,
let's stop shaming coffee. Can we not cancel coffee?
Coffee is not canceled.
It doesn't need to be. Coffee's not.
Just
feel
maybe
like
not
on
an
the
empty stomach, right?
I feel like it's on the
out and out. No,
I have so many like rituals now. But one thing that's new for me, because I am, again, not the best at high impact movement, but I realize I do walk and I like dancing. But for strength building, this sounds so little and silly, but it's something that is a good example of something you can do that's really little that you can like habit stack with. I'm big into habit stacking.
I love habit stacking.
I love a habit stack.
What do you guys do? Hold on. What are your habit stacks?
I put my supplements near my skincare. I feel like it helps me remember, because like, you know, and it's kind of weird to say because I should remember to take them because I run a supplement company, but it's like it makes me feel like I'm doing something overnight, and it's like all like setting in there, and it's like it makes me feel so good.
Yeah. What's your habit stack?
My new one, I have a bunch of these, and that's like, I truly teach and believe in habit stacking, so I'm always habit stacking. But my new one that I was going to say, because I have a goal of wanting to build more strength, when I brush my teeth, I balance on one leg.
Oh.
I need a video of this.
Alex walked in on it.
Maybe instead of balancing, we could do like a lunge or a squat.
Well, I also do 25 squats before I get into the shower.
I love it.
It's like a thing. So I brush my teeth and I balance on one leg, and I alternate what leg that is, and then I do 25 squats right before I get in the shower. Sometimes it is like in my towel when I'm already on the way out, or not even wearing anything, or in my pajamas. It doesn't matter, because it doesn't have to be in a gym, in the right clothes, anything. You just have to do it, and that's, for me, the only way it works.
But Megan, how about you?
Gosh, mine aren't as exciting as that, Deepika.
I'm just a weirdo.
I have an infrared sauna in my house, which is such a dream. And I will occasionally, this is this is not great, but I'll do work, I'll do emails in my infrared sauna for like 30 minutes. And that feels like I'm habit stacking.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. It's like more relaxing. Your intuition comes out. Love it.
If you're going to be emailing, you might as well do it in an infrared sauna and get your inflammation down.
Yeah.
And
I mean, this isn't every day. This is like once a week
fine.
or twice.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I've loved every minute of this conversation. I feel like I can talk to you guys for many, many more hours, which we will after this. And we'll cry together and laugh together. Thank you so much. I feel like both of you are so inspiring to me, and it's so cool to have friends on the show because we have so many people listening that need that inspiration. And I think don't often realize the importance of mind and body. They think so much about what am I eating from McDonald's, right? Or for this first trimester.
By the way, I don't eat McDonald's anymore. I would, but I don't.
Well, yeah,
I don't
we're not
have the
going to
craving
single
for it.
out any brands or.
Listen, if you're listening to this and you're in your first trimester and all you can have is
Eat
McDonald's,
whatever you want.
Or for me, it was like pink Starburst. Like that's the other little tip. Like,
Yes.
it's okay.
It's okay.
You know, for the
It's
second and
fine.
third, this is a shameless plug, but I learned to use protein more. And I think it changed the game for me on so many levels where I started my day with more protein and those kind of bad feelings didn't come out. So.
For me, it was just like just the eating more consistently. If I took too long between meals, then I would start to get nauseous.
Yeah.
Of course, totally.
So that was
It's like you force yourself.
you almost have to
and
force
you need
yourself
like
to eat.
you need so many carbs in that first trimester. All you crave is like pasta and bread and
because
something
everything
that's
else
easy.
just
Well, and I read somewhere like biologically, it's because it's like the least amount of thing that might give you like listeria. Like it's just like it's like not gonna impact in that way. And so apparently you crave things that are like you would think are bad for you, but actually you just kind of need, and that there's like a very low risk of being like ill from it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you guys so much. You've been inspiring to me, and I'm just excited to bring a little bit of those nuggets to our community. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.